crafters, this is Raquel with Paints and Glitter today, and I'm coming back with another video for Kokorosa Studio. As you probably already know, I am an affiliate of Kokorosa and also on their design team. They've been kind enough to send me product and ask me to give honest reviews, and so that's why I'm here today. I'm also going to be sharing this video as part of the Satmorn Makes. I do appreciate and like to participate with Jill Norwood and all of the other people who are part of Satmorn Makes, and that's a hashtag you can follow along to. It doesn't matter what kind of craft you do, anything that's creative you can share in that group, and that way you can get to know other creative types and also be very inspired to see how other people use maybe the same products that you have. So I'm going to be adding that hashtag below, but before I forget, I also want you to know that I do have a code for my subscribers that you can use so that when you do shop at Kokorosa, you can go ahead and get a discount aside from other sales that they may have at the moment, which they always have a sale. So go ahead and take a peek. And today it's just a small selection. I wanted to let you guys know these were supposed to arrive to me before Valentine's Day. Sadly, there was a little mishap and I got the dies a little late. However, I do like to follow up with my commitments, and I did commit to make videos with these products, and so I will be sharing these with you today. So let's start here. This is a very popular type of die set that Kokorosa sells, and I have showed in other videos, which I will have a playlist for you to follow if you'd like to, where you can get this base type die, and then it's all got this little kind of cutout pattern, and all of the dies that are loose in here that you see, I did have to separate. I do use pliers for that. They're meant for jewelry. I separate the dies, and then I go ahead and cut all of the little panels, and then I layer them together as I wish. And so there are several examples that I have, but this is the one for this video. Does cut out this outer portion, which is basically a frame, and then it comes with all of the dies that you can use to cut out the inner layers if you choose to do so. Now, if you want to, you can use those layers on top of whatever fell out of the background. I chose not to. I just cut it out twice, and then when I cut it out of the white paper, what I did was that I ran it through an embossing folder through my machine. That's how I got this awesome texture, which I then also colored with Distress ink in a very light pink. I think it was Sponge Sugar, and that's by Ranger. Then I used TONIC Studios paper in this gorgeous gold that I really like for the center, just to draw the eye, of course, to that pretty star. And it's festive, it's simple and just pretty. And you can use it, as I said, for many different occasions. I went ahead and lined the inside of the little card with paper that matched the outer portion, which you can't truly see, but it's almost like a watercolor style, and I love papers that are like that, and when I don't have them, I create them myself. This card that I made is my absolute favorite. This was quite the popular die this past month of February at Kokorosa. They still have it, so they must have ordered another batch because a lot of people were picking it up, and look at what it makes. I mean, this is just so darling. So to give you kind of a recap of how I use this, I did cut it out of white cardstock, and I always use the heaviest cardstock that I have, and I colored it in by using different inks from Catherine Pooler. I also use different pens that would match the ink, and then that's how I gave them their little shadows and also little details. I used also a white Jelly Roll pen for some highlights, and I did color in the eyes, and then I put some glossy accents on the eyes and all the little beaks so that they would stand out in the light. So it's kind of hard to see here, but there is some glimmer to these little guys. The background I cut out using a TONIC Studios die that creates a mini slimline card. So I'll go ahead and link that below, even though this is a Kokorosa video. But hey, we love to mix and match. So if you want to pick that up, you're going to be able to also create this scallop edge here because that comes with that other die. Now, these little bows are from Kokorosa, and I'm going to show you which die set that came from, but aren't they just so stinking cute? Super tiny. But if you want to know how I did this background, I actually colored this in using a stencil. We picked up the stencil from Honeybee, and I thought it was so pretty because it comes with 3 separate pieces, and you can create that sunshine look there. And what I did was that I used only one of the stencils to create the color in this white piece of cardstock with the blue, and that just very lightly. And then I grabbed a different stencil from this batch, and then I just lightly did the yellow to represent the sun, of course, and then a tiny little bit just on the edges there, because I didn't want to create such a stark background that it would take away from that delicate color palette that I used for the little birds. The background here is actually graphic 45 paper. I did distress a little bit on the edge, and then on the inside it's just blank. I did put another white piece of paper here. So I think this is just absolutely darling. You still have room for a sentiment. You could put it right up here, or even in the bottom or the center. But in any case, I left it blank because I think sometimes cards don't need sentiments. They can just convey the feeling of what you're trying to say. And then, of course, you can add your private message inside. The next card that I made is this one here. And I have to tell you, I love the result, but I did not love the die. So I want to give you guys honest reviews on these products. This is not a die that I would recommend, and I'm going to tell you why. If you look closely, this has this shape here, 4, 5, 6. So it's got a hexagon, but it's not an even hexagon. So none of these are true hexagons if you're thinking math and angles. So the other thing is that the spaces in between, because these are not true angles, if you will, for a shape, then the little spaces in between are completely uneven, meaning that when these little triangles kind of fall out, they don't even fall out as separate pieces necessarily. Like this whole star bit here that you see almost falls out all at once. And then the other pieces, if they fall out from, you know, say your plate, then it's really hard to reconstruct the image that comes from having cut these pieces of paper. And let me show you up close what I mean. These two meet here. This one overlaps here. So this, you don't get a true triangle. Then over here they overlap. So this is just something that I have to mention because it's my personal preference. If it's sent to me, then I have to give you my opinion. I can't give you the opinion of the person who designed it, of course. However, if you are not bothered by that, then of course you can get the die. Of course, that's your personal choice. Now, what I did was that I love a challenge. Even if I don't particularly care for a product, I think that because not everyone has the choice to buy a $20 die, which that's what you would spend for a background die at a different store, then I would say, okay, I'm going to make the most of this, because if this is all I could afford, then I would definitely just use it. And so what I did is that I dry embossed this white piece of paper. What that means is I ran my plate through with this paper, but instead of cutting through, I used a different plate that you can use in the machine, and then that allows the die to kind of embed into the paper without cutting it. Now it did cut through a tiny little bit here and there, but that's an easy fix. You just add glue on the back and no big deal. That white panel, which is a linen weave, is glued onto this pink panel in the background, so that took care of that. Then I cut it out again of different papers, or a paper that has this quilt pattern, which I love. I think quilts are just gorgeous, so I really like that piece of paper, and I've had it in my stash for far too long, so I did go ahead and cut that out. And then I just selected different pieces. So I picked one, I glued it onto pink paper. I picked another one, I glued it onto pink paper, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, because I love detail, I did add my little Nuvo drops in the very, very light blue. And that completes this card. I did add a bit of glimmer also on the edges, but I cut away on the edge wherever it would overlap once I had them all glued on here. And here's an example. See how I cut that away? So I just want you to know, if you are patient, which I am when it comes to paper crafting, if you're patient, you can make it work. I just wanted to give that disclaimer, but it makes an adorable card in the end, and sometimes that's all that matters, right? The next die that I use, or the next three, I should say, are these dies here, okay? And I'm going to have links below for all of these dies. I'm going to have, you know, the names of them because I don't commit them to memory. I'm sorry, I just can't. And then here's the love sentiment. This one, of course, has this heart shape, but it doesn't cut out a heart. It just cuts out all this background, but it's absolutely adorable. And then this is where those little bows came from that I have on that other little card with the birds. Those little bows are just too cute. And then these little pieces here, by the way, you could actually color them in like candies if you wanted to. And if you wanted to do a Christmas card with lollipops or anything like that, you could definitely use those, and the little streamers and all that. I find the streamers to be tiny, however, so I wouldn't be bothered with it, but I'd like to give ideas. So the love, super, super cute. Can't go wrong with that die. If you don't have it, just pick it up. You can even gift it to a friend, and it would be a wonderful, wonderful gift. This one here it's self-explanatory. And remember, I was supposed to receive these before Valentine's Day, so a lot of hearts. But I think hearts can be used all year round. There's never a bad time to send someone a card or a gift that lets them know that you love them. And of course, that's the greatest reason to ever give someone a gift. So this, I think, is absolutely universal and beautiful. It doesn't matter if it's for male or female, but let me share with you how I use them. So here is that heart panel. I went ahead and cut it 2 times. One of the papers had a pattern on it. The other one is just this gorgeous red paper that I did add glimmer to. Behind those 2 papers, because I layered the 2, I then adhered this pink vellum that I have. That, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember now, but I may have laminated it. But in any case, it is pink vellum. I created a shaker with it, as you can tell, because I love that sound. And I have these gorgeous little sequins and all that cute stuff back there. That's all layered with foam onto this background piece. And I did use a different die from my stash to create that. If you need to know which one, I can let you know. And here's that love. Now, what I did is that I cut it out of 110-pound cardstock at least 3 times. And then I cut it out of this decorative pink paper 1 time and layered those 4 layers together. This is now going to be nice and sturdy. And the reason I did that, outside from the fact that it looks fabulous, is the fact that this is going to be handled because it's a notebook. So if I'm going to create something like this, I'm going to go through the trouble to make it. Then I want to make sure that the recipient can touch this and not feel like they're going to tear it apart. So that's another good reason to cut your dies several times. Here you can see that it is a notebook that I covered. I used a doily, a paper doily. I used this lace trim or crochet that I had in my stash, as well as this one back here, because what I did is I grabbed these notebooks that you can get at the dollar store, and they come with Bible verses. And I think this is wonderful, especially if you're like me and you like to study the Word of God and you want to do a Bible study. You can jot down your notes, or even if you don't, if you need to have a little notebook in your purse or anything, then you can use something like this. And it came from the dollar store. It was pretty. There was nothing wrong with it in and of itself, but I transformed it by adding my own little touch, and I thought it came out cute. And having said that, here's the second one. So just because you die cut doesn't mean you have to make cards. You can use them in mixed media. You can make gifts for your loved ones. So this is just another version. Here you can see I added little bits of trim. Why did I do that? Because I'm not perfect. And if my paper doesn't lay perfectly on a notebook like this, which cost me, you know, $1.25 or whatever, then I will cover it up with a piece of lace and call it good. And, you know, these are meant to be used, not to put away and store because you're so afraid that you're going to tear them apart and etc. So, in any case, I digress. What I wanted to share with you here is I cut out this from the background, from this pink, light pink piece of paper. I inked the edges with orange. I cut those edges using one of my, what are these called? I always forget the name. Corner chumpers, right? So I used that to give that cute little corner. And then I used Nuvo drops. And of course, in true style, this is Paints and Glitter, right? I had to use all those little gems because this cuts out, if you see the die, it cuts out all of these little dots. And so I could have used Nuvo drops, but hey, you know what? I had myself a good time adding all those little gems on there because it adds the texture that I love. And for the background, what I did is that I had cut this out of white paper and I did add the ink in yellow and orange and in green because I love those colors together with pink. So because I was doing pink and orange out here, that's why I selected those colors here. I had this gorgeous yellow polka dot paper that went on the background, and then on the inside I did line this. I happen to have these sitting around. I always have little die cuts that are extra from other projects, so I added them on the inside. And then with the little pieces of paper that fell out of here, I created a little bookmark by putting them on what was left over from my little trim. So the word love was left over. I couldn't find the V, so I used the butterfly because it does have a V shape here. This was left over from another project. And up here, this little heart was from another project, but then here's those little bows that fell out, and then another little heart and another little heart. So this is now going to be the very personalized bookmark to go with this little notebook. And I just absolutely love it. I had a great time doing all of this. It didn't take too long at all. I'm going to show these notebooks again in a separate video. And the reason why is because of what I use to adhere the paper onto these. So if you see these again, I do apologize, but I'm going to let you guys know why I was able to put these together so easily and quickly. And I hope that you pick up some product if you need it. Of course, by using my links, it helps my channel. I just would appreciate a thumbs up for having shared with you my inspiration of how these little items can just make someone's day super happy by just getting something special in the mail. If that's something that you agree with, then of course I welcome you back to my channel. I want to say a quick thank you to the new subscribers that I have on my channel. A lot of you are very quiet right now and not leaving comments, but that's okay. I do just appreciate your support. And as I always say, I hope that you can be inspired and be blessed. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.